Let's see here. I think we have trouble. Oh, there we go.
Okay, guys. Let's see. Lots of apes in attendance. Nice to see all you guys. Okay, as people are kind of filtering in, I think we're just about ready to start. So, hello everybody. So nice to see you all. Thank you all for coming. This is our first AMA of kind of this half of the year of the winter. So yeah, it's super good to see all you guys. We're bringing you a really awesome project today. This is Block Ape Scissors, which is a really cool NFT project funded by Binance, and they're due to go into beta testing or their beta release soon. So now is just such an awesome time to get to talk to these guys as they're on the run up to so many exciting things. I'll be your host today. My name's Callum. No one ever tried to pronounce my username. You'll never be able to do it. But yeah, call me Callum. I may be a new face to some of you guys. I've only been in the team for a few weeks, but I dabble in a few things, do a lot of social media stuff, do some community stuff, and some community or partnership outreach stuff as well. So I'm, really honored to be able to speak to these guys today. I'm bringing with me a small portion of the team from Block Ape Scissors. This is Crypto Phoenix, aka Matthew. If you wanted to kind of introduce yourself, Matthew.
Yeah, sure. Firstly, Shemery? Is it Shemery or Shemery?
You know what? That is a good effort. I'll give you that.
All right. I thought I'd have a crack. Right, so I'm Matt Hutchins, aka Crypto Phoenix, and I'm the founder of Block Ape Scissors. So we're aiming to be the #1 gaming platform Metaverse project, creating an Universe which combines a bunch of different games and game modes together into a play-to-earn economy. And we're onboarding other game studio games into our Universe, so to speak, and working with partners and other projects in other different ways, like bringing NFTs into our ecosystem and providing them utility boosts and those sorts of things in games. And so my background is predominantly tech. I've been in tech 15, 20 years. Last 5 years, I've been a project director and program manager for basically head of tech for a tech company, doing very big digital transformation projects for multinationals. And it's been a huge learning experience on the enterprise front from that side. But my passion is very much, gaming. And blockchain. Became very interested in blockchain in the last sort of 4 or 5 years. Really didn't get into it until about 2017. 2020 became certified as a solution architect in blockchain, and became really heavily trading at the start of the year, and did fairly well. And then I decided it was enough of the corporate life, time to start something on my own. So combined all the things together and fused it into a concept that came up with in 2018, but I don't think the market was ready for it, nor the tech. And then I poached Dan out of his own project and put it to work, and here we are. So essentially, Bass was born June 24th. That's our birthday, and we're on it's going to be a long road. We have a lot of huge ambitions that we want to do and fulfill, but every major milestone and target we've set, we've actually hit. So it's been an enormous, I think, success so far, and we've got a huge amount of things that we want to do and establish over the future. So that gives you a bit of an introduction into the project and also myself.
For sure. And did you kind of fall down the rabbit hole that is NFTs pretty quickly? Because I think a lot of people were kind of blindsided by how quickly NFTs kind of came to the forefront, especially recently.
Yeah, I came across NFTs kind of when Engine started to really blow up in the first phase, and I thought, wow, what an amazing concept. I've actually got an entirely separate business model for something else entirely for NFTs, which I don't think the market's quite ready for yet either. But it's such an incredible concept, is having an asset that's programmable, that you can do all these different things with, and you can leverage in so many different ways. And programmable money is one thing, but having individual assets that themselves can represent entirely things. And Dan can probably speak to the ERC 1155 model a little bit about how amazing that is on a technical side and the possibilities. But it's just fantastic. NFTs, when I originally started to get some understanding of what they could potentially represent, was back when CryptoKitties were sort of taking the world by storm and crashing Ethereum. But even then, it was just scratching the surface. Now, when you pull the pieces together with the technology we have available, such as Chainlink VRF and bit masking and all these different things that you can do to hard code and use them to be targetable as smart contracts, it's really quite amazing. And I think we still have a ways to go. I mean, there's still some innovation to shape and to polish, and to make kind of a little bit more digestible for regular tech and other companies that might want to really utilize it. I think that's the next step. But in terms of it being a polished standard, I think we have some great standards. I think there'll probably be another one or two that will really, I think, extend the utility and make it more usable and digestible for regular institutions and stuff. But it's just amazing technology to be using and to be part of. It's going to revolutionise the way that people can even think about assets and how they can be used. That's what the metaverse is all about. That's why Facebook rebranded as Meta. That's why Satya Nadella said that Microsoft is going in on the metaverse in their own play. All these big companies are going to be doing it. And realistically, who cares about a bear market when you've got a metaverse? This is the new business model. This is essentially where people from all around the world will grind out required milestones in order to earn a fraction of what we would a day. So this develops a demand, and where there's a demand, there's always going to be opportunity. So NFTs in their infancy represented a store of wealth or something like that. And where we are now, they represent something so much more. They represent an opportunity for people to diversify, for people to be included. And that's certainly something we're looking at working towards building.
For sure, yeah. And I definitely feel like we're just scratching the surface. So yeah, you've also brought with you a special guest, Dan. This is the CTO of Block Ape Scissors. I don't know if you wanted to kind of introduce yourself as well, Dan.
Hey there. Yep. Cheers for having me here. I'm the CTO of Block Ape Scissors, and as Matt said, I got poached around July when we kind of met in I can't remember the circumstance, but anyways, then I was introduced to Block Ape Scissors, and with time I've really built up, I guess the right word would be, I really believe in the project, and I'm really attached to it. So I'm CTO. I don't have anywhere near the same experience as Matt does, but I'm a smart contract developer. So I graduated from computer science about a year ago, and I pretty much specialized on building smart contracts in Solidity for my thesis. And I was looking at handling of digital copyright rights, utilizing smart contracts. I didn't actually scratch the surface of NFTs back then for my thesis, but yeah, since then I've really come a long way into learning more about Solidity, smart contracts, and that's kind of my thing, Web3 development. So yeah, that's my background.
Right, you sound like a very valuable poach. Yeah, they're very lucky to have you, and we're obviously lucky to have you here to talk to us today a bit more about the project. Something that I wanted to ask you briefly, just because this is a concept which might be new to a lot of our members, but also certainly more people in the audience. Could you elaborate a bit on how the play-to-earn model kind of works, especially with regards to how it works for your project?
I can touch on it. I might let the the CTO have a bit of a word about the technicals, but essentially the play to earn it's an approach where people that don't have a lot of assets or funds or anything like that, they can grind out their efforts inside the game, perform functions, do tasks, and essentially be rewarded in some fashion. And a lot of play to earn models are actually not compliant because they give out a token or some sort of prize intangible value that's been set by that company. So Dan's been absolutely imperative to helping us work out the compliant models with the legal team and see how that's going to perform functionally and technically. And basically, you need to be offering something that doesn't have an initial tangible reward structure in terms of what that token is or a certain placed value on an NFT. So our model is quite diverse. It'll be iterative, so we'll start off with some base stuff. It'll build upon that over time. And as for what's coming out now, I might actually just hand that over to Dan, and he can speak to it.
Yep. So as Matt said, play to earn is really just about giving. It's an improvement upon legacy gaming, the way I see it. As in, right now, it's pretty normal for gamers to bring value to digital assets that they have in game. However, those assets tend to not be tradable. They tend to essentially be owned by the game companies, and they tend to just be bought by the player from the company. And so that's the direct revenue line. So what Play to Earn tries to do is it tries to say, okay, we build the game, but through your in-game experiences, you essentially become the owner of your own asset. To look back to something like Steam kind of had a similar way of doing this relating to CSGO Crate, CS skis, and then TF2 hats, to those of you familiar with those things. But essentially, that's the concept behind Play to Earn. Enough of us selling you skins and you paying us $20 a week. Now we're going to let you play the game. We're going to let you earn tokens within the game, and then you can use those tokens to upgrade your NFT, to mint new NFTs from loot boxes, or to have power-ups also in the game, and essentially retain those digital assets within your crypto wallets. Clearly what happens is that the blockchain is kind of the dream for secondary markets, as in all these digital assets become tradable between people. So, there is where we kind of offer these assets and offer these tokens to you, and you can then go trade them with other people, and therefore try and earn. So, the first guys to do this successfully were clearly Axie Infinity, and the issue surrounding Axie Infinity's model, in my opinion, is that it's purely based on player growth. As in, their play-to-earn model keeps being sustainable as long as new players keep entering their ecosystem. But once that saturates, you then have a big supply problem with SLP, which is what we've seen with the price of SLP really dropping recently, and also the demand for Axies. And clearly, in that way, you kind of lose players. And this is where we start mixing in a lot of our talents. Matt's talents too. He worked with player retention in online poker for a while, and really in developing play-to-earn strategies to retain our player base, and to basically say, okay, we've gotten these players in and they've got their ape avatars, which there will be breeding for. However, we also want to have an item economy, and we want to essentially have game modes which shift the meta between what's going on. And in this way, you keep players interested, you keep them involved, but really the thing that's going to really be big is the item economy, because in my opinion that's what's really going to work. And this is where we start tying in metaverse adventures, which Matt's alluded to in other calls, and which we're very excited to kind of fully share that concept once it's ready for. But yeah, this is kind of our idea and how we go about things. The important thing to note is that when it comes to legality, what a lot of play-to-earn people are doing is that they're not considering the fact that gambling is a highly regulated activity. This means that in the following years, through Balance Incubation, we've had the chance to speak to some very intellectual people who really know what's going on. And it's everyone's opinions that 2022 is going to be very big on compliance and regulation. So, having done a lot of study relating to compliance, we've kind of realized that, okay, if we just do what everyone else is doing right now, we're going to have the same regulatory issues that they're having. So we're kind of taking a step back and studying what we're doing a lot better, which we're also going to be trying to patent as we go forward. And coming to the new year, I plan on releasing a kind of very big breakdown of how this new economic model works. But the point is that we plan on presenting this to a regulator, i.e. we plan on incorporating in Switzerland, which is very crypto friendly, and presenting this model to a regulator and essentially approving it from them. And this will really give us a step ahead compared to everyone else, because at that stage, we're essentially going to have a state saying, yep, these guys are cool, they can do what they want to do, and we don't run the risk of ever getting blocked by other countries. Like Axie got blocked, I believe, from the US temporarily. They didn't block it afterwards. But as regulations come in, I expect to see a lot of play-to-earn games get blocked by various states who just classify them as gambling. So yeah, that's a bit on our play-to-earn model and on why, I guess, the information isn't totally up to date right now, and on why, I guess, we're taking our time developing this out, because we want to build an economy that doesn't just last for one crypto bull run, but is sustainable and lasts for a decade. Because we want these digital assets to be in your wallets for a decade, not just for a couple months.
All right, awesome. Thanks so much for telling us a bit more about your project there, Dan. So guys, I see a lot of new faces here. Just wanted to say thank you all for joining the server and attending this AMA. A couple words about Giga Chat. We are, mostly a community centered on crypto, but we look at all facets of crypto. And we're especially interested in being at the forefront of new developments and making sure that our users are kind of being exposed to all the new and best investment opportunities. And for us, Baz definitely kind of hit all the sweet spots there. So we will be moving on to user questions now. Those of you who aren't aware, there is an airdrop going on. So there will be a $100 reward in Block Apes Scissors native token Baz for the best question. So we'll be accepting voice and text questions. Both are eligible for this reward. However, I will be prioritizing voice questions for the time being. So I'll be welcoming to the stage our first question, and that will be from Jake Leeser. Jake, if you're ready to speak, I'll just invite you up. Okay, welcome, Jake.
Thank you. Can you guys hear me okay?
Sure can.
Okay, perfect. So my question for today is, in the last AMA, you talked a bit about like a risk management course that you took and kind of foreseeing different obstacles that you may encounter while in this project. From an investor standpoint, I'm obviously extremely bullish on the project. I'm wondering, from your point of view and your research, what are the biggest obstacles for Block Ape Scissors to becoming what you want it to? And then what are kind of some things that you're doing to ensure that you're able to overcome those obstacles?
Fantastic question. So from my side, my experience with projects and technical projects, essentially managing them for the last 15 years, has been very much on the risk management side. And typically with tech projects, you're risk managing the costs and the resources and things like scope creep and that kind of thing to make sure that you're fitting in with the client budget. In our case, we're basically risk managing two different things, mainly because raising funds is not really so much of a challenge in the current climate. So we're risk managing our compliance, which is hugely important, as Dan has mentioned, and we're risk managing essentially. So actually, there's three things. There's compliance. There's exposure, so making sure that we hit saturation with our user base and concurrent users in order to hit like a critical mass, and that critical mass, enables the ecosystem to essentially kind of self-manage in a sense. So self-management would mean there would be enough data in there to create trends, and those trends can be adjusted, in the meta. And that will create an inflow-outflow model within the marketplace, and you'll have all sorts of different trading activities and all those sorts of things happening within the ecosystem. So there needs to be enough players for that to happen. In order to get to that stage, we sort of go to the third piece, which is more about building the ecosystem and the gaming models, etc. So you can do it one of two different ways in terms of developing projects. You can do a big bang, which is kind of based on a waterfall model, or you can do it, dynamic and iterative, which is based on an agile model. Doing the agile model is definitely the better approach in terms of rolling out things iteratively, because you can get feedback based on your community, get feedback based on whether the game is interesting, whether it's fun, do the mechanics work, do we need to adjust and balance certain things. That is very much, the most important facet of what you need to be doing to build a game, and something that's interesting, that's community driven and involved. The challenge with that is that doing things iteratively doesn't always work with smart contracts, because they're essentially firmware. So once you deploy them, they're on the chain forever. So there's a delicate balance to be struck between, the waterfall smart contract approach and also the iterative game approach. Thankfully, we've got a really good tech team that's led by Dan that, is all over this net. So those risks are being managed. And in terms of the game and the ecosystem side, basically what we're doing is we're iteratively building out all the things that we're planning. So we have our initial beta, which is looking at our 1v1 battle model. Then it moves to the tournament model. And by the stage early next year, we'll have a number of other demos that are coming out. They're either going to be vertical slices, or they're going to be actual demos of our Metaverse Adventures games. And how we're risk managing that is a diverse approach. So there's actually, we're working very heavily with our existing game studio. There's potentially another game studio that we're going to be having do a different vertical slice. And we're actually building our own studio in-house. So we have a very experienced guy who's been art director for, I can't mention the place, but a very prominent game institution, who's helping us essentially poach the market, which is fantastic. So we've got a hit list at the moment that we're working through, but even 3 of that hit list will enable us to pretty much very quickly roll out demos to test, whether or not this type of game that we're building is going to give us, some additional retention and traction based on our audience and the users. So early next year, you can expect to see a lot of kind of alpha versions of games coming out, and needless to say, those alpha versions are going to be driven by people with like 20 years of gaming experience in terms of building them out. These guys are quality guys, and I've honestly just feel so grateful we have the opportunity to work with them. And their professionalism, their attitude, their expertise is just mind-blowing, things that they can do and create. So we're very lucky and we're very blessed in that respect. So that's the pinnacle, I think, of the risk management process, is that we sort of aim to get ourselves in a position where we can pivot really quickly and easily, and we can build out concepts that are functional almost at light speed when that team is properly formed, which will happen in the next 2 to 3 weeks. And essentially, it means that we can execute that whole side alongside of our marketing strategy. So essentially, what we've got is an opportunity where we're going to be expanding our player base and the markets that we're penetrating very, very quickly, and that'll happen in December. And so we have some strategies there that we're working towards. We're speaking to a number of people to hire them on a CMO type operation in order to fully penetrate the Asian markets, where a lot of the play to earn stuff is really being driven, and a lot of the trading volume is also being driven. So I think where we are at the moment is we're doing pretty well in the Western markets and the English-speaking front. But we want to become a truly global brand. So in order to be able to establish that, we need to establish ourselves in those markets and penetrate them accordingly. So that's in motion, and expect to be getting some traction on that towards the end of the week. But in combination with that, having these iterative game models and having the ability to roll them out and then get feedback from our audience and our community and our customer base is hugely important. And I think there are some clear distinctions in what we're doing, what we're building, that separate us from our competitors, because most of these play to earn models, they have a very linear model, which is sustainable, as Dan mentioned, only when the player base expands and when there's demand for it. And when it drops, that's when they start to see problems, because it is a singular linear model. And then there's some others that are not compliant, and to be honest, they're risks for investors, and they'll likely just fade away. Our model is very different because it combines successes from legacy gaming along with some of the successes that we've seen in crypto, and these things combined together can create an enormous opportunity for so many different types of people, whether you've got money or not. And I think inclusion here is the main thing in order to be hugely successful. So all of these things together form our overall risk management strategy, is that you have to be thinking about things from a variety of different angles. And if you just approach it from one side, you might be short-term successful, but will you be long-term successful? Probably not, because you haven't thought, well, what's going to happen in this situation? What about in 6 to 12 months if there's a better opportunity? Will we lose our player base? How do we stay current? How do we keep up with the trends? How do we create the trends? How do we cater for all of these different opportunities in the market that are outside of our product that we could use as complementary wants inside our ecosystem, in secondary and third markets? So looking at the whole thing holistically, I think is the best approach to make sure that, yes, you have your key risk management milestones or obstacles that you're addressing, but also having a look at what might potentially come into the fray is hugely important, and something that I think that the team has done really well in bringing to founder attention and looking at that, from a really bird's eye view. And we've taken a lot of time to address it, as Dan mentioned, and this is why it's been a little bit of a slow burn in some cases for us. But with where we're heading and how we're going about it, I'm really quite certain that we're going to succeed.
Yeah, I think the future looks really great for Baz. And obviously, if we're talking about player retention and growth of a player base, an important thing there is having a really great game, or great games, plural. And I know Baz is working really hard on delivering on those things. So Jake, I hope you're satisfied with that answer. That was a fantastic answer, Matthew. Thanks so much for that. I think you're just about ready to go on to the next question there. Just before I get onto it, guys, I just wanted to mention as well, in addition to the airdrop we are doing for the AMA, we're also doing an airdrop for everybody who submits a review that's of, decent quality. If you want more information on that, just head to the announcements channel in this server, and you're just looking for a Google form. So go through there and just, have a little speak or discussion with yourself about what you think of Baz, and we'd be really happy to read your reviews. Okay, I'm ready to take up the next question. We've got newly minted senior here, who I'm going to invite up now.
Hello.
Okay, welcome up.
Hello. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, got you loud and clear.
Okay, so I had just typed it in the chat, but how much of your future strategy, like as far as you're talking about risk management, relies on you guys being like the first licensed or regulated? Like, are you kind of counting on other companies being shut down or kind of falling outside of the law?
Definitely not. So I think what's really, really important is the space is expanding so rapidly, and obviously with these bigger, institutions, companies, etc., looking at the metaverse, there's going to be a massive influx of interest, exposure, and potentially money over time. But prior to that, we kind of always addressed that. We're not looking to chop any other projects down. That's not the purpose of it. We just simply see, the flaws in some of them and try not to make the same sort of mistakes. I think is really key. But we encourage, all of these other projects that can potentially be successful because, rising tides float all boats. That's really important. And from our perspective, we're not relying on anyone else's success or failure to teleport us into the limelight or our own success. Like, our success will be based on purely what we can develop and build. Whilst it's great to leverage off partners or other projects that might be doing really well, BAS is an ecosystem that's going to stand on its own 2 feet in every sense of the word. And as we develop traction, there will actually be, a huge amount of opportunities, such as brand placement inside our game, where you might have a sports brand that is, putting their shoes or their sport clothing or that sort of stuff inside the game on the 8 characters. And that'll gain them additional exposure, market acquisition, and we get, cut of the royalties for NFT sales and those sorts of things. So there's so many different strategies that we'll be employing. I think what's really important is that, like, we kind of sat back, and the reason that I actually created this project in the first place is I really wanted something cool and amazing to do that was in crypto. I wanted a game and some concepts that were enormously fun, and something that was really, really, quite different. It didn't exist. So, this was created before I even understood what Axie was, in terms of the base concept. I've done a lot of different games and those sorts of things, and you get a pretty firm understanding of how you can create these things, through playing a lot of these games. But the economy that we can build provides a really, really interesting experience and rich, experience for a diverse amount of people. And this is the kind of thing that I wish was available, and it wasn't. So I was like, okay, well, why don't I just build it? So it was one of those things where it was just kind of like a light bulb moment. Well, we can incorporate all these different things, all these different successes from other projects that are outside of crypto, and legacy tech, even SaaS models. All these different things can be rolled into this type of thing, because it's no longer just gaming. It's gaming, it's business, it's finance. It's a whole bunch of things that are being converged into the same space. So I think the truth is, our success is based on looking at things very holistically, and where we'll be and what we're doing is not dependent on the failure or the success of any other project. It's dependent upon our own vision and our own ability to execute, and all of the various things that are coming into our ecosystem, whether you're an NFT project, whether you're a gaming project, or whether you're part of the team, whether you're part of the community, or a player that's even casual. So I mean, there's so many different avenues there. But what's important is, like, we have a very specific idea about what we want to do, and that's to become the number one gaming metaverse ecosystem. So leveraging the metaverse to create an universe, and that universe will be hopefully very, very prevalent and prominent, and very functional as a core hub within the metaverse. for hopefully generations to come. So this is what we want to build, and it in a sense, where we want to get to is having inter-platform, inter-game collaborations with other partners, other projects over time. I think that would be absolutely amazing. They would need to have a look at some of the stuff that Dan's already done in terms of the way that those NFTs are coded and how we can really integrate, because there is a level of tech there that is absolutely pioneered by our tech team. So there's some bits there, but I think this is something we really want to work towards, is having inter-platform collabs. That would be absolutely immense. So yeah, in answer to your question, I don't want to see any projects fail. I only want to see people succeed, because the more that people succeed in space and in crypto, the more legitimate the space becomes, the more people start to get interested in this rich ecosystem that's building out, and the more attention and focus starts to come into crypto and into crypto gaming and play to earn. So that's really important for the growth of the space, and that flows on to us. So yeah, that would be great to see.
Perfect. That answers my question. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, another fantastic answer there. Guys, yeah, thanks so much for listening. We want to get through all your questions as quick as we can. Yeah, we really appreciate the quality of responses here as well. Okay, I'm ready to bring up the next question. We've got Radu Mercia here. If you're ready to speak, I'm just going to invite you up. See if he responds.
I'll try and refine the answer down a little bit next time.
We've had so many questions. Yeah, guys, thanks so much for asking all your questions. Honestly, the interest and intrigue in this project is really appreciated. We are all fascinated with Baz. We think it's really amazing. That's why they're here. That's why we wanted them here. So yeah, I hope you are finding this AMA as fruitful as we are. Radu, I'm really sorry, but I'm going to have to ask the next person. Hilmi George, if you're here, I'm going to invite you up. Okay, it doesn't look like it. Okay, Dranreb, sorry. I'm going to invite you up. Here we go.
Yeah, hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Okay, hi, I'm Dranreb. Sorry, I'm tired. I was wondering, will dead coins have some kind of utility and provide some form of value in the upcoming game? Or is it only the community of those dead coins that are seen as valuable and as a potential member source?
Good question. So dead coins, so you're talking about ones with absolutely zero value, Dronro?
Yes, as you have outlined in your white paper, that projects, rock pools, and so on. Basically all these shitcoins, all those tokens that have absolutely no value anymore.
It's a really interesting point, because so our initial white paper, we were looking at providing shitcoins and dead coins. Sorry for the profanity there, people. All different types of utility, and we still want to do this over time. There are some lines that are very important to distinguish based on how that can be achieved. So we can still do it through our Metaverse adventures, and this is something that we're definitely going to be offering. So if we take the shitcoin route, you'll be able to go off and we'll use Doge as an example. If you have a big Doge bag, the game, essentially the chain API will recognize your bag size, and you'll be able to go through and play the adventure, and then have like a loot box token that's specific to Doge at the end. For the dead coins, it is quite different, because your bag has no value. So I think we can definitely have a look at how that's going to shape. But for the moment, I wouldn't say it's an immediate strategy. Dan probably has some additional ideas about how we're going to thread this in at the moment. And the reason that it's been parked and paused is mainly because the way that we were going to apply it is different to how we are going to apply it now. Originally, we were going to have them as being kind of like more like free play tokens. So we could still implement that model, but it's not going to be as lucrative for the platform. It's mainly going to be a cost, so we have to consider that. But there are some options that we can really pursue, and I think what's going to come down to is how much the community want to see dead tokens and rugged tokens being part of the landscape. Because if we have a really big demand and there's constantly people asking for it, we can implement functionality. It's not really that much of an issue. But we have to do it in a sense that basically we would be providing utility that is kind of labelled as free play. I think that would probably be the best approach in that respect. But Dan could probably speak to some more of the technicals about, how that would function within the ecosystem for the model that we've already defined. And, some additional ideas beyond what I've just mentioned.
Yep. So within one of the main offerings that we're working on is this Metaverse Adventures concept, and basically this allows us to create unique experiences surrounding various tokens or NFT collections, which are essentially only accessible by people who either hold those tokens or hold those NFTs. Now, the benefit of doing this is that at the end of this adventure or quest, etc., it'll allow the player to mint or, essentially receive a, for example, SafeMoon specific loot box token, or a Bored Ape Yacht Club specific loot box token. And they're going to essentially be able to go and they're going to be able to mint an NFT which is themed around this, and then they're going to be able to bring the NFT back to the Block Ape Scissors competitive game, and that's where we're going to see people, similar to how people play Hearthstone and have aggro paladin, demon hunter classes, etc. What we're going to see is people playing maybe Bored Ape Yacht Club sets, or say Everrise sets. So various tokens, both meme tokens. We're going to be able to have like Shiba Inu sets, etc. And this is where we start tying in the metaverse around our game, in order to essentially create what we're now calling an earniverse, essentially a play-to-earn solution for the metaverse. You come in with your NFT, etc. You play a quest which only you have access, you and other people with these items have access to. So it restricts the supply of the items that you then eventually get. And then you can come in and you can either boost your earnings playing Block Ape Scissors, or you can sell them on to players who competitively play but can't access those adventures. This is the utility model that we currently have. Clearly, more in line with the white paper, would be a gambling utility model around shitcoins and stuff. And part of why we're so big on compliance and speaking to regulators is because in the future we do want to enact that model. We do want to have Block Ape Scissors and have that, secondary game where we allow people to gamble and stuff with these tokens. But being doxxed, being out in the open and everything means that doing it right now would really put a huge amount of risk on the project. As long as we're small, it's fine. But as we expand and become bigger, that's when we start gaining attention of regulators. So by being compliant and doing things by the book and getting things approved, essentially in a year's time, 2 years' time, depending on our financial runway, we can try and get a gaming license. And at that stage, we can really offer that kind of utility to all of these shitcoins, pardon the language again, around the place.
Yeah,
and beyond that as well. Sorry, Sharon. I was just going to say, getting a gambling license is not a simple thing. Like you can get one for maybe 150K, and that'll give you a few different jurisdictions. But if you want to do the globe, that's could potentially be like 80 separate gambling licenses. So depending on how we go about it, I mean, there's a few jurisdictions that we could utilize that give you kind of a bundle, so to speak, or we can opt to have a look at leveraging someone else's license with a revenue model there. I mean, there's some options that we're looking at. It's by no means off the table, and it's still something that we're very interested in. But we want to do it right. That's really the main point here, is that because we aim to be very legitimate, reputable project, and my face is all over the space. So I've got to make sure that we're doing things right, and because we're docs, we need to definitely be as squeaky clean as we can, moving forward. But the gambling model is very interesting. One of my first jobs was actually with the world's first government-regulated online casino, and I was with them for 3 years, and it was very, very interesting. I learned a lot about gambling mentality. I was looking after their high rollers for quite some time, about a year and a half. So it's really, really interesting, and I really like the gambling sector, but it's something that you really need to approach when you're ready. We would love to do it, but the initial compliant model is very much as Dan has mentioned and very articulately put. And in this case, the gambling model is something that I think will be very well positioned to investigate and leverage in the future.
Okay, Dronreb, I hope that answers your question.
Yes, kind of. Thank you. So basically, to what extent shitcoins will have a purpose is not certain yet, but meme coin holders will have access to specific items. Did I get that right?
Yep, they'll have access to specific play to earn adventures, and yeah, which will provide utility for those tokens.
And will those items have any value, and will you have to spend the currency you're holding to get access to that, or is it enough if you just hold those currencies?
Just holding is enough. It essentially becomes a like holding the currency or holding an NFT, depending on the adventure, becomes like a premium pass into the adventure itself. So you won't have to spend that currency at all. And at the end of the game, you'll win a token that will allow you to mint from a specific loot box themed surrounding that community. Depending on what meme token it is, we're essentially gonna have NFTs according to those, and those NFTs are gonna tie into our game. So the NFT is going to have value to the players of the game. But the idea is that those NFTs will essentially interact into sets and provide boosts in game that will essentially give players an incentive to play different sets. And as we bring in new games and new game modes, different sets are essentially going to have better boosts in different modes. So this ties into how a lot of games are being developed right now with constantly evolving metas. League of Legends did it, Dota 2 did it, Hearthstone just done it. And yeah, not only do you engage players a lot more, but as we can see from these games, you create a constant demand for new items coming through the game.
Yeah, it's a much better supply and demand model. If you have game A and you earn token A, it should be applied to game C. And these types of things, they encourage an ecosystem, they encourage trading and better player activity. So this is what it's all about. And yeah, I think it's going to be really exciting for everybody, because if you have a bag that you're holding, that's your eligibility, to get into the Metaverse adventures for that specific type of theme, where you can earn items that are specific to that type of token or NFT, and then those things can be utilized, combined, etc., to create sets, as Dan's mentioned, and those sets will apply in different ways. So there'll be lots of different opportunities for things like aggregation. So when we get to tribes, a lot of people will aggregate their NFTs and items together to form these sets and to get specific bonuses in different ways in different games. And that's how that ecosystem model will really flourish. Is we want to really promote collaboration, aggregation, working together, pooling resources, and then people can earn fractionally, into those different ways. So that is really the power of the metaverse. Is people working together, combining things together, and individually earning from these subsets. These unique individual items that perform specific functions and form part of bigger sets of things that interact in different ways. So I think this is a really, really interesting aspect of what the metaverse can be, and certainly something that we're actively building towards.
All right, thank you so much for your question, Dranreb. Okay, we've got a few more questions to go. I really want to get through as many of you guys as we can. So I'm proposing we maybe try and do a bit of a quick fire. So just try and keep these answers as snappy as possible, and the questions likewise as snappy as possible. So I'll be inviting up Lucas next to speak. Lucas, if you're ready, I've just invited you up.
Is this speed round? We're doing speed round?
We're going through the rest of these voice questions, in some speed.
Cool, let's do it.
Okay, Lucas, far away.
Hello, can you hear me, boys?
Yep.
There we go. How you going?
Good, yourself?
Yeah, not too bad. Okay, on the last AMA, Phoenix, I know you called yourself a gamer. I just wanted to know, where you earned your stripes.
Oh, so I earned my stripes originally playing Warcraft 1, 2, 3, Frozen Throne, StarCraft 2, Diablo 2, Diablo 3, and all of those different sort of RTS and RPG games. I also played the original CS for 1.0 and Day of Defeat. So I don't know if anyone remembers Day of Defeat, but I used to run a clan called RQR, and we won the Australian ladder in 1.2, I think it was. So I've done a whole bunch of things, but obviously, with age, my reflexes for FPS is nowhere near what it used to be. But I still really, really enjoy RPG and strategy stuff. That's really my forte. Plus, I played a lot of Heroes of Might and Magic. I really enjoyed that series. So yeah, it's mainly. I think my passion would really be strategy and real-time strategy games. Really, really love that stuff, and also RPGs. But that's probably a question for Dan as well, because he's an avid gamer. Really loves the games.
I've played a good variety of games. I play a lot of Call of Duty Warzone, so very kind of mainstream. However, I was kind of semi-professional for online poker for a while. I got very into the study of game theory optimal play there. I've played Hearthstone a lot. Most notable achievement was hitting legendary on both America and EU in a week. This was when COVID hit and I really had nothing else to do. Then before that, I've played RTS games. One of my favorite would have been a game called Stronghold Kingdoms. So that was MMO RTS. Then I played a lot of Dota 2. Played some League, although really much prefer Dota. I played CS:GO. I've generally played a lot of competitive multiplayer games, and which were team-based, and then a lot of kind of risk-reward strategy games like poker, and then I've played a lot of single-player strategy games like Total War, Civ 5. Those would be the big ones to name. And
I played the crap out of Civ 2 when I was in high school. I played Civ 2 to death on Emperor, biggest landmass and everything. I love that game. It was great. There's so many. As you mentioned, the ones that you mentioned, Dan, like I was like, yeah, I played the original Dota. I played Heroes of New Earth, all those ones as well. I played a lot of Hearthstone. Didn't get as far as you did, but there's just so many great games out there. It's amazing.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
After this, maybe we'll have to reconvene and work out where we're going to drop, boys. All right, Lucas, thanks so much for your question. Next, we've got Lazoba. Lazoba, if you're ready to come up, just invited you up. I'll give you a couple seconds. Should have an invite. Okay, sorry, man, on to the next one. Okay, Saint-Jan, if you're ready, I'm just inviting you up. Here he is. Saint-Jan, if you're speaking, I can't hear you at the moment. No good, I'm afraid. If you fix your mic, feel free to queue up again. Okay, Chad Daddy, feel free, hit the stage.
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, hello.
Hi, I'm Richie, and I have a headache, so I'm kind of tired, but I just want to ask a question. How does your finance distribution look like through each department percentage-wise, just to kind of see overall what you're focusing on as developing a game requires a lot of financial backing and growing in the crypto space, especially as a credible coin token, requires a lot of work on that as well. So kind of your finance kind of shows, and your finance distribution would show, what you're working on and what's your main, what you're trying. Okay, I don't know. Just go off of what I've said right now.
Yeah, it's perfectly fine. Hope you feel better, buddy. So our initial focus, most of our game-related expenses were external. So in terms of the actual balance sheet, that doesn't show directly as staff. But we do have, I think we've got 8, maybe even more artists for the CG, 3D, and animation side. Correct me if I'm wrong, Dan. Somewhere around about that mark. Plus, we have a 2D artist side that sort of works in with the marketing department, and then we have 2 game developers internal. So that's how it is now. But our game development team, as I mentioned earlier, we're building out our own studio. So we're going to be making that realm around about 10 to 20. We're going to get pretty serious about having very reputable game developers on the books. And I think we'll probably end up having the actual game development expense in terms of a slice of the pie, somewhere around about 40 to 50% mark, I would say, of our run rate or our burn rate. Mainly because what's really important is to be able to get across a lot of different games really quickly in Q1, which is just really hugely important. At the moment, I would say that game development as a slice is probably, if we're talking about even the 3D artists and the CG artists, I'd say it's probably somewhere around about 15%. Maybe 20. Yeah, as of now, mainly because marketing is expensive. To be frank, it's quite expensive. And then we have actually it's probably a bit higher. Come to think of it, so there's design and marketing. I think would probably be somewhere around about 60%, and then we have I think we have game development. If we include the 3D artists, it could be 20 to 30% in there. There are some other people that are getting paid. The founders aren't getting paid at the moment. We'll get paid later, but yeah, it's really important people know that as we progress, game development will be, I think, definitely the biggest area of our expenditure. If we include the 3D artists and people who are building the trailers and all that promotional content.
Did I get it right that you said you have 60% or 6% allocated to your marketing?
I think it's about 60, as in like 60. Okay. It's hard to really define those numbers because they change every couple of weeks based on our strategies that we're rolling out. For example, the last 2 weeks, the last week or so, we haven't really spent that much on marketing, but the next 2 to 3 weeks, that will escalate rapidly. But yeah, it's marketing is very expensive. If you include product development into the marketing sort of quadrant, it would be about 60%, mainly because there's so much content that needs to get created, and then you have the actual expense of doing publications and the team that runs that as well. So it's it's quite high.
So over time, you think, or the plan is to move from marketing being your highest allocation to your development. Is that right?
Yeah, 100%. And that's not to say that marketing will deplete. It won't. It's just that we have things in place to be leveraging our partners, especially through the Binance side of things. We're making some really amazing relationships there. So our marketing costs will probably, I think, level out in some cases, even as we scale. So that should be easy, to forecast, and it should be great. But what we really want to do is build out the studio internally. So we have a hit list that we're working through, and poaching people from very reputable projects that want to join something on the ground floor and build something amazing. So that's where we're building towards, and I would expect that these are quality people, so they're not going to come cheap. But I think that that expense will continue to grow in terms of size of the pie, for the next probably 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Richie, thanks so much for your question. I think that was a terrible first question. He tried to redeem himself, but fortunately for him, he got some brilliant answers. So, thank you very much. Next up, I've got Xworld queued up to speak. Xworld, if you'd like to join, I've just invited you up. I'll give you a little bit longer. Okay. Oh, just in time. Okay, mic check. 1, 2.
Okay.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Winner.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah. Okay, so I just have 3 questions. It's not really complex because I'm actually new to this stuff. I just heard about bars like 2 weeks ago, and I got the coin. So I was going through Twitter when I saw Binance posted something like incubation stuff like that, and I saw Bar's picture, the logo on it. So my question is, what does it really mean? What does it really mean for Bars to be in an incubation period with Binance? Yeah, can you just explain that for me? Then I'll ask the next one.
Really, glad that you asked this question because it's a really big question. Look, initially for us, it was to be perfectly honest, it was the brand recognition being vetted by Binance and flying the flag that we passed all those tests was really important. But the incubation program is vastly bigger than we had anticipated. At least I anticipated. The contacts, the connections, the information is just astounding. What they do is they accelerate your project. So what that means is they look at your pain points, things that you're having challenges with, whether it be marketing, compliance, or your model, your tokenomics, any of those subsets, and they work with you with mentors to help you work through these challenges and build or scale your model, whatever it might be. For us, one of the main things that we wanted to look at is wider exposure and adoption of our project moving forward, penetrating the Asian markets, etc. Having a look at getting help from someone in marketing who's been there and done it, and making sure we're across all things that we want to be looking at for compliance, incorporation, a bunch of different things. And the team that we've been introduced to, the connections we've been introduced to, is phenomenal. I really didn't expect to be lined up with the caliber of people that we have. And it's just been immense. I can't begin to share the gratitude that I have for the opportunity that we have as a project, because the word acceleration really sums it up. So we knew that we wanted to get from A to G, and basically what they do is they cut out steps D to F. So we just had to take those first 3 steps, and then literally they hand everything to you on a silver platter, and it just makes your journey so much easier. It's like having a big brother that looks out for you and just says, we'll take care of it.
Okay, I understand. So those I want to talk about those that are holding the coin like me, because I heard you talking about the game and how players are going to get involved in the game, and I really don't know how that works because I'm very, very new to it. So I really don't know how to even participate in the game, but I'll keep up with the updates. So I don't know, when the game launches and people start using the game, does it has a way of affecting the price? Because I know recently the massive dip that just entered everywhere is really crazy. So I don't know if the game will actually affect the price, like make it more interesting for those that are holding the coin for long term.
Yeah, 100%. So as the game rolls out and there'll be the play to earn components with all the items and NFTs, there will actually be some buy pressure that will be created on the token. And I might actually let Dan talk about some of that stuff if he would like to. He might be away.
Sorry, connection kind of broke for a second. Could you repeat that question, please?
Yeah, quick as you can, Jen.
Okay. Okay, I was saying that I was trying to ask that I'm speaking based on the holders, like people who are holding the coin for long term, because I don't think I'll have access to the game for now because I don't have a laptop. I mean it's just a phone I'm using. So I'm just trying to say when the game starts, I mean when players start using the game very, very well, I'm asking if it will affect the price, bus price to become very, very interesting for those that are holding the coin and also for the players. That's what I was trying to say. That's what I was trying to ask.
Yeah. So I don't generally comment on future BAS price movements. I try and avoid doing so. However, the BAS game ecosystem is essentially being planned out to borrow some of the elements that current play-to-earn games are doing, such as Axie. A governance token along with an in-game currency that you can spend, and then we want to add the BAS token as an in-game booster on your in-game earnings. And then there's a couple dynamics here that we plan on developing, which tie into how our tribes mechanic works, i.e. player guilds, and where this is all very new stuff, but essentially we're building a system whereby big BAS token holders along with high-skill BAS players can come together in tribes and essentially avail of the amassed BAS, so the staked BAS towards a tribe, in order to boost the high-skill players' earning potential, and therefore big BAS holders and investors can clearly just passively earn from this. This is essentially a very new concept that I haven't really seen much around play to earn. There are definitely guys doing similar stuff, but really what this does is it really amplifies what the BAS token does, I guess. It really develops this necessity for it in game, and in my opinion, it's really going to boost how much BAS holders want to hold as the BAS ecosystem grows. So clearly, I don't need to explain the effect that we expect that to have on price. But the point is that right now, BAS is just in the market. We've added the governance element through the Snapshot DAO for now, but with time there will be a very good reason for both players to hold BAS and for investors who are interested in the game ecosystem to hold BAS.
Okay, thanks so much for your question, XWorld. Guys, out of respect for the people after you, let's just try and keep the questions a bit quicker. I don't want to allow too many follow-up questions now. I know everyone is just dying to have their questions answered, but we've got a ton of questions to go through. Okay, Saint-Jan, if your mic is now working, I'll be inviting you up to speak. Okay. I think that's still a no, I'm afraid. Okay, feel free to submit your question in text. We'll see if we can get to it. Okay, Buff Wanderer, if your mic is working, feel free to take the stage.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes, hello.
Oh. First off, thanks guys for doing this. I'm just curious, outside of the game development, which I understand you've mostly outsourced, what kind of workforce you guys are supporting, like full-time, part-time, and what they're working on?
Good question. So we have a pretty decent marketing team now. I think there's 5 in the marketing team doing various different things. We also have essentially two managers that are looking after community management and sort of general ops. Most of the people are full-time, including I just have to give a shout out to our community moderators who are tirelessly in there as our face and ambassadors of the project where the rubber meets the road. I have to say the best mod team in crypto. Like, they're just amazing, and they're just wonderful people, great humans, very intellectual, good EQ, and tirelessly work for the community. And there's, most of the people on our team are in the mod chats and in the general chats as well. So that equates to around about 30 people, maybe 35 if we include our China channels as well. So in terms of staff that are, on the payroll, so to speak, it's I think it's 21. We have a lot of designers out of Italy. I call them dance band, because they're mostly people that he knows personally. from uni that he's managed to poach. And so we've got, I think, we have a team of about, I'd say 12 over in Europe at the moment. Then we have about 4 or 5 in Australia, and then the rest is decentralized across the globe. But I'd say in the next 3 to 4 months, that'll hit probably the 40 to 50 mark as we progress. Certainly by March, April, I would say that would be really starting to ramp up, even on the game dev side. So hopefully that answers your question. If you've got anything more specific, happy to answer.
Nope, that about covers it. Thanks, guys.
Cool. Thanks, buddy.
Thanks so much for your question, Buff. Okay, guys, I just wanted to note to you all, we do have some moderators and staff members from Block Ape Scissors here in our server in the chats. They're also ready to answer any of your questions if you've got any really burning questions that you need to have answered. But we will be trying to go through as many text questions as we can now. Sorry to all of you that have been waiting for so long, but we will get through as many as we can. The first question I wanted to take is from Lapatapa. So sorry, I saw you were queued up to speak, but I want to get through as many text questions as we can at the moment. To summarize, he is wanting to know from both of you if you think that there could be another .com bubble situation that goes on as we head into the Web3 era, and what could Baz kind of implement to mitigate the damage done by that thing?
100%. This is definitely taking shape and will likely be the next .com bubble. But I don't think it's realistically something that people here need to be concerned or worried about. Probably for the next 2 to 3 years. The main sort of institutions, big players, big tech companies, they're really only dipping their feet, starting to wade into the pool. We've got some time, but realistically, smart investors, they need to be looking at some, serious key factors about the projects that they're investing in. So this is not investment advice by any stretch of the imagination, just things that I would personally look at. You got to look at, what problems are they solving? What's their plan? Their roadmap. How do they plan to implement it? Who's on the team? What sort of experience do they have? What are their advisors like, if they have any? What sort of backing do they have, financially? What's their runway? Have they got cash? Are they just blowing it on marketing without having any product? What's their delivery approach? There are so many things to look at here, and realistically, you should just be able to pop into a community channel, ask these questions, get the answers you want, and make an informed decision. I think that's really, really important. And if there's a project that is on your radar and they seek to solve a problem that you've identified that is a long-term problem, and they have an expansion plan and a scaling plan, then these sorts of things would be indicators that would give you some kind of distinction that this project that you've identified will be here for the long term. If you identify those sorts of projects, that they could be, good things to pursue. Our approach is to,
right?
Yeah, it's a long game, right? Like, we're giving a sort of a drip feed through an iterative model to a much bigger plan, and that bigger plan is going through to an open world, eventually RPG and MMO later. But there's a lot of things that really need to fit. We have to get little things right, and if we don't get them right, we course correct and make sure that they are right before we move to the next stage. And these are things that I personally have learned through projects, the last 15 years. Is if you have one arrow and you shoot for the target and you miss, well, that's it. It's over. But if you have 500 arrows and you keep moving that target back a little bit, every single time, and you keep hitting that target, well, cool. The main thing is you give yourself enough opportunity to succeed, rather than only one attempt at failure. So there's something really important there.
I suppose that's one of the advantages as well of kind of having had projects like Axie come before you, and other projects as well, which have faced legal challenges and stuff, is you've been able to learn from all their mistakes and kind of capitalize on them So now you've got a more fully fledged project, which is it kind of has more of a long-term guarantee to it.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a it's a double-edged sword there. The more projects that succeed, the more available models you can leverage off as an understanding of why or how they worked. There are only really a few in the space, in crypto at least, that give you that kind of context. The ones that fail, you can just tar with a brush and just say, general rule, we weren't going to do that. But the more that succeed, gives you a larger context of what might be successful that you might want to be implementing. And it's that's why I think it's really important we have more successful projects in the space, not just to understand why they were successful, but also to have greater collaborations with in future. Because that's what the metaverse is all about. It's an inclusive model rather than being a siloed, restrictive model. And this is going to be hugely important in the future.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, I wanted to take a question from Hilmy George. He's thinking that his mic was having issues. I did try to invite him up earlier, but yeah, sadly it didn't work. He was wondering about the first game that you've got coming out, which is kind of based on the rock, paper, scissors game. He's wondering if there's any risk during playing that game that you might risk the BAS that you're staking.
No risk whatsoever. It is purely a way to earn, not a way to lose. It's you can only earn in the first model for the beta, and basically because we're not going to be doing any gambling, at least until we have the appropriate licensing, etc. There is no staked risk in that aspect. It is purely an avenue to earn.
Okay, fantastic. And sorry for the wait there. Andre or Isu, if you want to come up and ask your question, I've just invited you up to speak. Or was that Beans? I may have invited Beans. Okay, I'll give you a couple more seconds. Okay, sorry, Beans. Feel free to ask your question in no mic questions. We'll get to it if we can. Oh.
Can you hear me?
Hello, Andre.
Hi. I hope I can formulate my question correctly. I was wondering, since BAS aims to be a rather competitive game, if there are some plans for the competitive scene, how big it wants to get, and especially compared to the League of Legends competitive scene, how BAS would compare to that, and the gameplay, how skill-based it's supposed to be. So actual skillful players are going to get rewards for their gameplay instead of who's luckier. I hope it's understandable.
Yes, what a great question. Brilliant. The second part of this I might hand to Dan. The first part, which is based on the 1v1 battle mode we have available for beta, it's a rudimentary implementation of what we're hoping to do for the battle mode. And Dan has some very interesting ideas about one of the modes that we're going to roll out in the future for that. But essentially on the skill-based model, you have your core moves, which are rock, paper, scissors. And then there are these power moves. So you have wild and alphas. And you get a certain amount of wilds and alphas per actual game. And these wilds and alphas, essentially a wild adopts the winning move and allows you to win. And the alpha is your trump card. So if someone's played a wild at the same time as you playing an alpha, the alpha beats everything. Whereas the wild can still lose to the alpha, and the wild can win against the core moves. So this element of skill is tangible because you only have a certain amount of these that you can play as trump cards, essentially in your game, and there will be a whole pile of different strategies that will come up. I already have my own, which I'm not going to share with you at this time. Sorry. And these strategies will really start to come out based on different types of ways that you might want to play. Because once you get to 3 wins in that entire round, you win. So if you already have an alpha and a wild out there, and you've played them well, effectively that's 2 wins, and you really only need 1 core move to win in order to either tie or win that round. There's 5 rounds in a game, and you only get. Sorry, my recording has finished. I have no more space for this recording. Apologies. You only have you have 5 wilds and you have 3 alphas throughout the entire game that's available, and so you need to use them wisely. And that number might change or shape over time, but for now, I think this is the best way to balance the game out. But yeah, it should be quite strategic and very skillful for people that actually understand the mechanics. So it'll take a while for people to get around that and really start to get a feel for it and how it's going to work. But as it takes shape, I think it should be really quite exciting. So the other game mode that we're building on top in future, on top of this original battle mode, I'll hand it over to Dan, and he could probably talk about some of the things that he envisages being sort of layered on top of this actual foundation we're building.
Hi, yeah. So I've had a lot of experience with competitive games. Different types: shooters, card games, battle royale, and MOBAs. Really, mostly those. Also MMORTS, and I guess not to sound like we're trying to do everything, but with BAS we want to have the block paper scissors game, which I guess you'd compare it to like a PvP. Initially, skill-based kind of rock, paper, scissors, as Matt introduced. However, I'm developing this concept around potentially bringing in health bars into the situation and turning this block, paper, scissors mechanic into an almost kind of Street Fighter-ish type game, where different NFT items that you may have give different damage boosts and then different abilities. So, like, say you have I don't know, I've got a flaming link sword, and the other guy has got a I don't know, some cool project's armor. Say it could even be an Axie armor, and basically I know that, like, if I play scissors against your rock, if you beat me with your rock and you've got the Axie armor, then basically you get like a 2x damage boost because of that. So essentially, by bringing in like different NFTs and sets and tying in a very simple mechanic like rock, paper, scissors, we can start layering different combinations of moves and stuff. So maybe you're playing against a guy and you see that he's got an NFT which gives him, as I said, like a 2x damage boost on when he beats you with rock against scissors. Now intuitively, okay, I probably want to start playing paper more because he wants to be playing rock a lot. But then this is where I guess the skill-based elements, and you start tying in maths, game theory, etc. into how you play and understanding which NFTs are currently meta, which NFTs are not meta, and how this entire thing interplays. Then clearly, over time, we want to build multiple competitive arenas. So, there will be the BAS player versus player, then there'll be the BAS tournaments, and then as we bring new kind of games, such as like a tower defense, and with time more and more games, then we can start doing that. The thing is that we want to have both PvP competitive scene, which is kind of fed into from like an item and differing meta perspective from an external Metaverse adventures player versus environment type ecosystem. And so yeah, this is the basis around what we're trying to do. And yeah, I hope that answers your question. I didn't veer off too much. One thing, guys, I have to go. So it's been a pleasure talking to you all. And yeah, I'll leave the rest to Matt.
Oh, Dan, it's been so great having you here. Yeah, thanks so much for coming.
Cheers.
Thanks, buddy.
See you guys. Bye.
Okay, guys, well, Matt, especially, if you're having trouble with your recording, we've got through most of the voice requests now. I've got one more from Beans that we might like to take. But if not, would you be happy to kind of go through some of the questions on the text channels, or would you rather me kind of relay them to you as we have been doing just here on the stage?
Yeah, I think relaying them is good.
Yeah.
I've actually I hit max time on the recording, so I just kicked off another one. But I did unfortunately miss a little bit of Dan's information. So hopefully you guys have that. But I'm sure we have a few scribes in the crowd that can fill in the blanks if there's anything missing. But I'm at the start of my day, so the last AMA that I did was 3.5 hours. I don't mind being here for a while if we've got more questions.
All right, fantastic. I'll invite Beans up to speak then. Beans, the invite has been sent. Okay,
Hello.
Take it away.
Hey, I just liking the project and everything. I just want to know, what is it you guys like most about the project from you guys?
That's a really challenging question.
Yeah. No, I'm just curious.
It's a really, really challenging question. Look, there's several answers to this because for me, it's incorporating NFTs and pioneering tech and doing all that kind of stuff that previously in my former corporate life I had a lot of red tape around. So being able to just follow dreams and ideas is amazing. It's so much fun. But there's another kind of egalitarian idea about this, which is providing inclusion to countries that don't have a very high basic income, and giving them something a lot more interesting to do with their time other than going to a factory and working, or potentially being exploited for their efforts and values. Then there's also bringing something really cool together and making an amazing community that kind of shapes and evolves into a movement of itself. There are honestly so many ways to answer this, because the answer for all of them is what we hope to make a success with BAS. It's not really one thing. It's a holistic idea where a bunch of things come together to form an ecosystem and a concept and a vision, which makes up the number one gaming metaverse ecosystem model. So it's a challenging thing to just pinpoint one, because there are so many aspects to this that I think are amazing. But I think I've given you something that you can work with.
Okay, thanks for your time, and I know these AMAs get pretty long. But thanks.
That's right. I'm at the start of my journey today, so I'm starting to really kick the engines in. So I'll be here for a while. Thanks for your question.
All right, Beans. Yeah, thanks for your question. Okay, we'll take another one from the text channel for now. So we've got a question from La Pepe Ne. He's wondering about the beta. He knows it's not available at the moment, but he's wondering if it will be available to play on iOS or Android.
So it's being built out in Unity, and it's the engine for it allows for WebGL compliance, which is basically just a browser version of the interface for the game.
Yeah.
That should be compliant on iOS and Android. It might not be perfectly functional for every single version, but you should be able to use it at the very least. So yes, it should be usable on phones. Essentially, with Trustwallet and MetaMask and all those different types of wallets, you should be able to connect in through the browser and use it.
Fantastic. Well, that's great news. Okay, we've got a question from Clyde or Hank. He is wondering if the player economy does, kind of go to the dogs. What could the team do to prevent that from happening? So say the player economy just kind of disintegrates or crumbles. Would it be moderated or regulated?
I think curated is probably the point. So we'll be watching our metrics really closely as we expand. And I think the real key component here is evaluating the meta. Is the meta working? Are we retaining players? If not, why? We've always got to be asking these questions. And once we hit, I think, a certain global market exposure, we'll have a benchmark and a baseline for what the existing games are generating as new players as well as retention. So we'll have a lot of metrics that we can analyze. And what then becomes important is the meta. So is that meta balanced? Is that meta providing good enough incentives to keep people playing? Is it overpowered? Are we giving out too much? Is the supply too high? All of these things need to be realistically, shaped quite often and adjusted. Either you're governing the meta or the meta is governing your changes. And these things, it's one or the other. So we'll try and get to a point where we've honed it in and refined it to a precision model where we can govern the meta based on a balancing mechanism where we're forcing those changes. But we have to be realistic. We will probably be reactive, at least for a little while. But I think this is important key is that if you only have one linear model and all you can adjust is two things, then realistically it becomes really hard to pivot and adjust various different ways to suit that meta or to suit the demand. And what's I think really important is there'll be a number of games. There'll be potentially like hundreds of thousands of different items. You'll have NFTs from other projects. You'll be able to make your own NFTs. You'll be able to make your own items and upgrade them. You'll have apes that can be leveled up and have these item sets and NFT sets applied to them, applied to various different games. You'll have power-ups that are kind of like your one-shots that can provide you specific bonuses in order to enter a tournament or a competition, whatever it might be. And the meta that can exist with that should be more than exciting enough to retain a number of different players. But it's the grinders, that's the key. So that champion model, which really provides benefits to people who are doing the work per se, is really, really highly important. So the key here is to make sure that you have ways to incentivize demand. We have various ways of doing that based on the 5-token model we'll be rolling out, all the item meta and all the metrics that will be associated with bonuses and tribes. One thing that we haven't touched on is be looking at actually implementing a full financial model inside the DAO. So that DAO will have things like, this isn't fully worked out yet, but something we're working towards, which is something called BAS bonds. So if you look at a model as an example like Olympus, they've done really, really well. And the stuff that they've been able to roll out has been highly successful. And we picture a situation where we're going to have BAS bonds where tribes, etc., they'll be able to buy BAS bonds, and those bonds will have a drip feed of BAS over time. And then that DAO treasury has the ability to incentivize and govern certain aspects of the ecosystem with real cash. So let's say, for example, we had a very big brand that came to us and said, hey, we want you guys to build this out inside these two games. And, we need to do this. Then the DAO treasury can have a look at the proposal, fund it, we build it, and then it gets done. So there are certain things that we can weave in to the way that it's going to shape. But we need to have a system where the entire ecosystem is funding itself in different ways and providing that expansion, and not just in terms of the game, and not just in terms of the meta, but in terms of a financial model where people can actually utilize the ecosystem itself to build their own wealth, to have opportunities to set them up for the long term, to use their BAS in different ways, And this is something that's really, really important, because if you don't do this, then people are they're likely going to capitalize when it's a great opportunity. But if you have opportunities where it's collateralized, it's utilized, it's functional, it's creating buy pressure, then that token will, continue to go up in time, and that escalates the value of the ecosystem. So there are a lot of things, a lot of facets here that are, really quite important in the game theory and the economic model. And honestly, there's so much to think about with this. And we're actually going to be bringing in several economists to really look at that full polish of the model, just to make sure. Actually, one of my old schoolmates is one of the chief economists for the Reserve Bank of Australia. So I'll be calling on him. He's a massive Magic the Gathering player, so this should be right up his alley. But that should be interesting. It's really important to get professional opinion on your ideas. So we'll be looking at that. But the financial model is something that's super important, I think, for everyone as we progress, because a lot of people are going, well, I've got this BAS token. I really want to capitalize on it. I want to figure out how I can earn, how I can either make a salary or some kind of residual recurring revenue from it. And rather than selling it, if we provide ways that people can use it, capitalize on it without having to sell it, that in itself is a huge success.
Yeah, so to bring us around full circle, we're not looking to regulate the economy specifically, but by regulating the meta, we're hoping to kind of have that effect on the economy that we're looking for.
Yeah, it's a two-pronged answer. Yes, regulating the meta is probably core to our initial strategy, but having an economic model that is self-regulating in itself already being compliant, that is eventually just governed by the DAO, is something that we're striving towards as well.
Yeah, and I was wondering as well, just for my own curiosity, really, if you've got a bunch of items which have traits which kind of dictate how much you're going to succeed in some games. Are these traits going to be uniform across different games? Because this, I'm anticipating this might present a bit of a balancing issue, if not.
Yes, they will. They will, because let's say, for example, BAS NFTs. So they'll be hard coded with very specific primary traits or attributes, and then there will be advanced traits that come in over the top. But they will be standardized, and then they will apply in different ways, and they'll have power-ups and boosts that come in over the top for very specific things. And the reason we're doing that is it needs to be very simple in its initial application, but you can provide a number of meta changes over the top with things like power-ups and NFT sets. So when those sets get combined, they get those advanced attributes, and it makes them much more, worthwhile as individual pieces to be owned. And this really comes into play when you look at things like the Metaverse adventures, where, let's take, for example, a walkthrough. You're in the tavern, and you spot this, parchment on the board. You look at it, and there's news that there's some big dungeon troll, in this cave. So you go to investigate it. You're wandering through this cave in this dungeon type scenario. There's a few little sort of things that you discover and find, and eventually you reach the boss. It's this troll. He has very specific, strengths in most cases, but one really weak, attribute, which is his vulnerability. You don't specifically have enough to beat that vulnerability, so you call for help, and basically it sends a message to the dashboard in the portal. A bunch of people just sitting there watching this portal for potentially opportunities that are going to come up as encounters for bosses and stuff. One of them has a set that exploits that weakness, so they accept the challenge to jump in, and they port into your instance, and they form a dynamic party with you. You guys take down the monster or the troll. The person who instigated the encounter is the biggest earner of the loot, and the other person, gets a small portion for helping out, because essentially they're just rinsing and repeating on that portal. So that would give one, idea about how that's going to form. There'll also be more than, you might come up against some pretty big bosses where you need more than one person to take that down. Sorry, more than two people. So that's going to be really interesting. But I think the dynamic parties will be amazing. But the item meta is going to be, it will evolve and become more advanced. But the original aspect, I think, to it needs to be simplistic, and then we can evolve on that meta over time. So evolving on the meta involves the sets and the power-ups and the boosts, and then those things make it essentially infinitely more complicated as we progress over time.
Yeah, it sounds super ambitious, but that's what makes it so exciting.
It should be a lot of fun. I'm really excited about the Metaverse Adventures. And, with the ability to earn very specific tokens, I think that's going to be shaping the meta and the demand models, really, really well and really interestingly. So we'll see. We'll see which games are most enjoyable, and I think that's going to be a key factor, is which ones are getting the most adoption. Because there's some balance there that's going to need to come in over the top of that. So, all interesting and fun questions.
Okay, we've got another question actually from Seligatone. Seligatone is wondering if the games that you're producing will ever kind of evolve or be enveloped by the metaverse.
Well, we hope that the games that we're evolving will form part of an actual AAA game eventually. That's kind of the purpose for building out a really big game studio internally. Is we essentially want to temperature test some of these concepts and ideas with our community, and then the ones that succeed will form part of a greater world, a greater game. And if you look at some of the really successful RPGs and MMOs, a lot of what they've done are like little mini games, and those mini games are, they're encapsulated by this bigger narrative and world. It's the same kind of concept that we're doing, and all these games, we really want to develop to a really high standard, and that's why we're really taking this route. I think it's really important. And sorry, I've just lost the original question, Sherry. Can you just remind me?
Yeah, they were just wondering about how it might be applied to the metaverse, which is kind of growing. I mean, we mentioned how big companies like Facebook and such are kind of pivoting towards that direction now. And I think they're just wondering, or we're looking for clarification about how the metaverse might change the way that development takes place, or how these games might themselves kind of apply to the metaverse.
Yeah, so I mean, the metaverse is really just a concept of tearing down borders between companies and games and assets. That's really all it is. So we're developing this entire ecosystem with the metaverse in mind. Everything we're doing is designed to be borderless, and that's why we encourage brand placement. We encourage a number of companies and projects that are working with us on the NFT front and also on the gaming front to work with us and build out their offerings. So the metaverse essentially should be a leverage point for companies to either leverage their brand or their products and take advantage of opportunities. So those opportunities are present within our game and with our ecosystem. So everything we're developing lends itself in that fashion to be leveraged by them. And it's exactly the same, with the games. These games are open to be leveraged in the sense that people that we're working with, or people that have existing products that we're just going to utilize, they become part of that entire meta. And that needs to be done very delicately in certain ways. But really leveraged it into something that's highly experiential. And I think that's where, we're going to take that leap and really make it something kind of mind-blowing, in the sense that, okay, I've got a Bored Ape Yacht Club, I have a CryptoPunk, and I have an ETH Rock. A, I'd be really well off, but B, I can use this on my character in this metaverse adventure, take down this boss, and I can also combine it, put it in this tribe, and it forms part of these sets, and I earn fractionally from these being used, and we delegate the use of it to these champions, and they go and put it into these games, and over a week, I get this amount of earning. This is what it should be. This is what the metaverse should be, is I've got these assets, I'm going to lend them out to these people through these smart contracts, and they're going to go and do these things with them, and they're going to provide me these bonuses. That's what it should be.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, great answer. We've got a couple questions here. They're both similar, so you might be able to answer them both kind of in tandem. And we've kind of already answered them before. So Blanta and Extended Eel are themselves wondering if there'll be other game modes available in the future. So I think the plan is, for beta, you're focusing on the one game, but maybe you could elaborate on these questions and maybe give us a kind of timeline on when more games might be available.
Sure. So we've got the one that's other things to be added into that fray, as well as tangents. As we progress, there is the tournament mode, which is the battle royale application of it, and it's a more extrapolated point system, which will be very interesting to see the interplay, because when we have the likes of tribes, etc., it's very likely that people will team up, and this will lend itself to, I think, to very exciting applications of tribe wars and those sorts of competitions, which will be a lot of fun, especially when delegating to champions. So the good champions will really come into fray, into the spotlight, I think, in that position. So there's the tournament there, which realistically should be mid to late January, to have the beta version of that done, and then we're looking. I think we're looking at early to mid then for full game release of those modes.
Oh, fantastic!
Beyond that, we have a number of other games that we're looking at developing, and I'd say us because I'm looking at the collective us. So we have a game studio that we're working with that's looking at a Clash Royale model. They're already, I think, halfway through development. There's a number of things that we can be working with them on. It's a really interesting application of it. I think should be quite exciting. And then we have our metaverse adventures. So obviously there's the dungeon crawler model that I've sort of alluded to. Then there'll be a lot of different types of games that target different audiences. So one of our big plays obviously is Asia, because it's just massive. So there'll be some games that are very much tailored to targeting that type of audience. Then there'll be some retro games. So as an example, I don't know if anyone's a fan of Bubble Bobble, but we're looking at a Bubble Bobble kind of remake that is done in a bit of an ape theme, similar mechanics, but is slightly different, obviously, for many reasons. Then there's a lot of these sort of old school retro games that can be, the mechanics are really quite simple, but they're really addictive, like a lot of fun. So we've got a storyboard essentially where we're looking at half a dozen really to ship out as concepts, in and around that February, March area. So what we want to do is beyond the tournament release, we want to have these essentially like demos of these type of game concepts published and out there, for community feedback to figure out which ones are the most interesting. If they don't get any play at all, then they'll just be deprecated and we move on. But if people are really excited about the possibility of them, interested, then we'll look at developing them further. And this is what's really important in having an experienced quality game development team, because we can put out a lot of these things really fast, and we can get some feedback, make sure that they're actually interesting, and develop those mechanics and models, and then weave them into our P2E model and the whole ecosystem. So then effectively what we end up with is numerous different things that are getting done in parallel, and we can have a continual drip feed and iteration of all these different games that then come into the ecosystem, and people could earn, through various different ways. So that's something I think is really important, because if you just have, I've got this game coming in 6 months, people just wait around, or they'll go and do something else. And it's just in crypto, people have the attention span of a butterfly. It's so quick. And to be completely fair and honest, a lot of game studios need to come around to this concept and idea, is that in crypto things happen 5 to 10 times faster than anywhere else.
For sure.
And if you have the attention, harness it, utilize it, grow it. If you've missed it, then effectively you have to start again. So and that's expensive. It's expensive to get people's attention, very expensive. So what's really important is that we get on people's radar and we keep building out interesting things and fun things, and then this comes together into critical mass. And so all of these games will act as a proving ground into the greater things that we really focus our attention on, and those greater things that form part of our open world. So the open world is games that are dependent upon things that interact with the major entity sets of classes for these apes, and then all those things start to come together, and then you see the true shape being formed. So that gives you some context.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, that kind of brings us around to the next question quite conveniently. Anna, I believe, is how you would say that. She wants to know, with all these things you've got going on, how are you kind of balancing all the different elements of the project? So you've got development across all your games, the marketing like we talked about before, team management, community engagement. I mean, I think we mentioned earlier there is a bit of a bias towards marketing for the reasons you've just said. It's important to really keep the ball rolling once you've got it going and maintain momentum. But maybe you'd like to comment on kind of the rest of the structure. I mean, how is the time being allocated in the team?
Yeah, good questions there. So look, marketing is one of those things. Yeah, as you mentioned, key point is momentum. We've had some pretty great success, and the team's doing an excellent job in terms of various ways of screening and engagement. Building rapport, working with partnerships, and scheduling things out in advance. And the key thing here is that it's been a real journey on the marketing front, because there's a lot of projects out there that they take your money and rug you, and it's exactly the same in marketing. I can tell you, like 99% of the people that will contact you on Telegram or Discord for marketing related activities are going to rug you. That's just the way it is. So a bit of advice there for anyone who might be interested in running a project: do your own research, follow your own path. Don't just take things, that come to you, because it's very likely a scam. So marketing, I think we've done a really great job there to get things rolling. Momentum is there, and we'll be ramping up efforts in terms of a number of things on that front. But juggling it is to be honest, it was easier before Binance came around, because most of my meetings are at like midnight now for Binance, and they're just about every day. So, sleep-wise, circadian rhythm's taking a bit of a hit. But
yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, but it's a means to an end, right? Like, adrenaline keeps you going in most cases, but it's exciting. It's a lot of fun. I think from my perspective, juggling the teams, you really need to understand your people. I mean, obviously you have your goals and your targets and things that you want to be working towards and things that you want to hit. It's really important to understand your people, and this comes down to your culture as well as your management strategy and your project approach. But from our perspective, the culture that I'm looking at, building is very much one of support and encouragement and positive work culture. And if I was to draw a comparison, Zappos and the holacracy model is probably closest to what we're doing. We're not specifically doing a holacracy, but I believe very much in terms of empowering people and giving them an opportunity to rise to the challenge. I think it's very important. And not everyone will succeed, but you need to at least give them some trust, to be able to do that. And you find out very quickly if they're going to rise to the challenge or not. But juggling it is so much about delegation and being really clear about the things that you really want to achieve, and spreading your time across different areas that are manageable. For me, it's been quite a challenge in the last couple of weeks, specifically because we're talking to so many more people than we had in the past. Through Binance, there's mentors, there's advisors, there's VCs, there's just so much going on. I've got just too many chats to really get across. So at times I just have to bite the bullet and just say, look, I'm not going to get across these. I've got my own work to do, and later on I go through them. But I think the biggest challenge is knowing where to spend your time. Time management is key.
Yeah, for sure.
And certainly, I mean, on the technical front, I was a tech manager for years, and it's really quite foreign for me to not really have to be involved in the tech delivery or management side. But huge kudos to Dan, because basically we talk about the different tech stacks, we talk about where things are at, and he just goes and does it. I don't have to worry about how the tech stuff is going, because he just goes and nails it. And so that's such a breath of fresh air, because that used to just be me, doing that, managing that, and as a consequence, I can focus on other things. So it goes to the same with community management. I don't have to worry about community management because the team is fantastic. They look after the community in so many different ways. It's an organism, that has grown on its own and evolved in itself. Everybody relies on each other. They're like family there. It's just amazing to see.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes for all of these different areas. And I think that the challenging thing about the juggle is making sure that things are on course and they're managed, but you're also evolving. You're also evolving the teams and evolving everything in the same direction that your business or where you're wanting to head is growing at the same time. And this is, I think, the true challenge. Is that every day, I have new things that I would like to thread in to the roadmap. But you've got to be realistic. You have to be realistic about what your team can achieve, what you can achieve, and you can be as ambitious as you want, but you still have to have your feet on the ground and be in touch with reality about what you really can achieve and the time that you have. It's different when you're scaling horizontally and you have more people that can lead, you have more people that can do the work, and there's less talk, there's more action. But in any case, you've still got to account for contingencies and potential problems that are going to come in, and make sure that things like QA and testing and all those other things are being catered to. So the real juggling act is, I think, for people that don't have experience, like doing things in crypto can literally be a baptism of fire. And I think what's really important here is that if there are any new projects that might be listening, you have to have at least, one or two very experienced people on the team that have worked either in startups or have worked in some kind of technical role where you're dealing with CI/CD and SLDC and all of these things that you're going to be working with, and delivery culture and all these things. Because if you don't, there's so much context around that you're going to have to learn straight away. And in crypto, because things move so fast, you don't really have time to stop and smell the roses. You've got to keep pushing on, and because if you don't, you'll get left behind. Because innovating space, things move so fast. So in our respect, we are blessed because we have a real diversity of skills, experience, cultures, backgrounds, and it seems to be coming together really well. And I'm really happy with the team, and we're only building on our strengths in the future.
I mean, yeah, it sounds like you've put the Avengers together with the team you've got, and it must be a blessing to know that with regards to time management, you can trust your team because they're so dependable to just do whatever they've been tasked to do.
Oh, it's been immense, and look, I can honestly say that we do have some serious hardcore Avengers on the team, and I'd like to give a shout out to Daniel Crane if he's listening. He's our lead game development platform lead. He's just like a savant when it comes to game dev. So when he came into the fray, he took over game development for the alpha version. And basically, it needed quite a significant structural and facelift in some cases, to get it to where it is now, which is light years ahead of what it was. But essentially, like, it's a bit of a story, but he came on and he completely rebuilt the structure and the foundations of that game over the weekend. Over a weekend, I could not believe it. He absolutely smashed it. And when I talked to him afterwards, he was just like, well, an experienced game developer versus, a game developer you might hire off the street that might have, a bit of Unity experience, etc., is going to give you like 10 times ROI because they've been there, they know all the tips, they know all the tricks, and they might have libraries that they can use or prefab scripts, all these things. And at that point, I realized it's very similar to tech support. Like, I was in tech support really, for 15 years, and no one could beat me. Like, I could just do everything because I had my own toolkit. I had my toolkit of everything that I needed, and I could just smash out more tickets than anyone else, even the level 3 stuff. And it's the same stuff. Is that the experience really matters, and at that point, I realized, we need a team of guns. Yes, we need the new, version of the team that's going to learn from the guns, but you need that seniority on all areas and all facets of all teams, as well as the juniors that are going to learn and they're going to be the workhorses and do a lot of different grunt work, learn the ropes, and that's going to help you expand and do succession planning over time. So there are so many things here that you just don't you don't learn in 5 minutes. And I'm grateful that I have the experience that I do to be looking at these things now in the position we're in, because trying to play catch up with this kind of expertise and knowledge would be a challenge. But imparting that onto the team is a gift that is fantastically giving.
Okay, awesome. We've got a couple other people with their hands up. I'm happy to take another couple of voice questions. Crypto Boy, I'm inviting you up to speak if you're ready to. Okay, we'll just give him a little bit longer.
Sorry about that. I just had to unmute my mic.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, fire away.
Just a quick question. Good morning, guys. How you doing, Matt?
Good, buddy. How are you?
Good. We don't know each other, obviously.
We've only met each other in person. It's fine.
No, that's right. I just had a question in regards to obviously the way that the market is going. I just wanted to know that I know there is talk in the industry, in the crypto sphere, I should say, in regards to a potential, bear market after Christmas or during December. Similar to back in 2016-17 sort of bull run. I personally don't think it's going to happen. This dip that we've just sort of had over the past few days is going to, it's the pullback before, a big leg up to, for example, Bitcoin going over 100,000. But what my question was, if, for example, we did enter a bear market for a short period of time, do you think that the particular type of field that Bass sort of covers, which is the play to earn field in the DeFi sort of space, do you think that will outdo and outperform the bear market, even if that comes into play?
Yeah, easily. I mean, the bear market is one thing. Obviously, everyone is very aware of and cautious of happening, because no one wants to get caught, holding bags at the top when it's coming down and eventually waiting for it. So these are things I'm sure are on everyone's mind. But what we're looking to build and create essentially is an ecosystem and a model which can effectively decouple from the macro market trends. So if we're looking at the way that it works is, prior to the latest bull run, Bitcoin would go up, then Ethereum, and then the majors, and then the microcaps. In this situation, potentially considering a super cycle, we have trend-based waves, which are, we had NFTs, we had DeFi, we had the play wins, we had various chains, specifically that would go up in value, etc. Looking at how things are still pegged to Bitcoin, essentially, the best we can do is find a way for us to decouple from that peg, and in doing so, we also need to find ways for people to find a safe haven that is demand-based of its own economy, rather than being a peg to the macro trend. So what we want to build is this diverse ecosystem with inclusion across all fronts, where the demand kind of replaces that peg. So we can do that. It is possible. And, there are various projects that have been able to go against various trends. So, for example, Axie Infinity Sandbox, there's quite a few, but they're the two that come to mind. They're short-term bullish trends versus a bearish macro in that sense. But if you have a diverse ecosystem with a multitude of games and you're getting a form of mass adoption, that creates an own vehicle in itself, which provides a supply and demand model that is external. Is essentially it's decoupled. So the way it would work is that once we hit that critical mass and we have enough people on that are playing the games, that are interacting with the ecosystem, that are trading and minting essentially provides buy pressure on the VAS token, then that whole mechanism in of itself, as well as providing significant utility to these guilds. I mean, there are so many guilds out there that are looking for ways to capitalize. It really just needs to provide a means to an end for all these new different business functions. Like, if you look at the investment for some of these guilds, it's massive. I know of one specifically, I won't mention names because it's confidential at the moment, but they've got a 10 million fund that are going to be going towards them just for this stuff. So, some of these providers, their institutions, they know that that the only thing that's going to hold up the bear market is utility. And the number one thing that is going to provide utility is something that integrates NFTs and provides people with a reward based on labor. And that's essentially what a play-to-earn metaverse should be. So I would say, we're kind of like, what we're building is bear market repellent. Basically everyone that should evolve in the BAS ecosystem as it evolves and develops should be somewhat resistant to a bear market, or at least highly influential bearish trends. Basically because what is being built should be sustainable enough to be decoupled. And we're working on a variety of different ways to do that, even in the short term, because we're highly aware that, there's a lot of talk that December could be very much like 2017 December. It could go absolutely parabolic. If it does, we need to be sure that we're prepared for that. We're protecting our investors, and we're taking steps and measures to ensure that can happen. By the same token, we need to be able to capitalise on these trends, and make sure that we are, we're hedging against these potential bearish trends, but also being able to capture these really bullish ones. So it is a strategy. There is some key metrics that we're looking at, and certainly taking a path that allows us to decouple from B&B, which is potentially more influenced by Bitcoin essentially, and these types of strategy I think is very important to make sure that we're planning for a really sustainable future.
Yeah. Okay, great. Yeah, because I've been around for, quite a few years in the crypto industry, and I survived the 400-day bear market, as I believe you did as well. And back then, throughout the bear market, it wasn't, it's totally different now. And I think people do need to understand that. And there wasn't utility. There was vaporware. And I think the only things that really survived throughout that bear market was when STOs were basically meant to be the next big thing, which was security token projects, real world assets and things like that. So yeah, I agree with you. I totally agree with you. This block heap scissors is bear repellent. So yeah, that's perfect. Thank you for your answer, Matt. That's great.
No worries, buddy. And just probably to add to that, I think what really kicked out the bear market was DeFi in 2020. It started around March, if I remember correctly, and
yes.
DeFi was the birth of the new bull, and it was really amazing to watch. And I think with the key here is that realistically there are too many opportunities for people to use their funds in crypto for large institutions or major players that are holding big bags to want to actually take it out. Like, because of DeFi and being able to basically deposit stables into a platform, borrow against that, deposit it somewhere else, borrow against that, etc., rinse, repeat. What you have is APY stacking, and that wasn't even around before. But
definitely was not. It was not.
It's a very specific strategy where you can essentially increment lots of little value between all these various different platforms, and you can get yourself 100 to 200% APY just with stables. You have absolutely no IL. There are no risks associated with it. That didn't exist before. So all of these various opportunities that people can use to de-risk and still earn, you can't find that in traditional finance at that level with those returns. It doesn't exist. And this is now the new wave. Like, this is what convinces a lot of people that we have a super cycle, because I don't see any incentive for people to take, the large volume of their crypto holdings out anymore. I don't see there being any reason for major outflow. other than creating FUD and doing a shakeout, so that people with big bags of money can buy in at lower rates and capitalize. So, the real holders, retail investors, and the long players, they're in it. They're playing with DeFi. They're diversifying. They're investing in illiquid assets like, Bored Club, NFTs, and CryptoPunks, and hash masks, and all these different things. And it generally does not make sense to see, a real bear market where massive outflow is coming out of the markets. If anything, we have a micro bearish trend, which is a shakeout in order to reset funding and to get people better positions. And then, we have a bit of sideways action for consolidation, and we move up again. This would appear to be the most logical and intuitive way that things will shape.
Exactly right. An arrow must be pulled back before it hits its target. Thank you so much, Matt. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, buddy.
All right, that was a really awesome answer to listen to there. Yeah, I think the fact that it's kind of play to earn really does change how we kind of consider how the markets have worked before. So yeah, we'll be really excited to see how this goes forwards. I don't want anybody else putting their hands up. We'll go through the questions that we've got left, and then we'll try and wrap this up, guys. Okay, so we've got MadCats065 if you're ready. Just inviting you up here.
Oh, hello.
Okay, hello.
Hi there. First of all, I want to thank you guys. Thank you very much for creating this project. It's very exciting. I'm very new in the space. These are my first NFTs ever, my first collection. And I feel very lucky it's actually Bass. I'm very, very bullish in the project. I think this is going to change lives, and I really want to help people, especially from where I come from. For example, my dad is living in a third world country. I want him to be like my champion. I want to help people to get involved into this project and change their lives. My question is basically is very basic. What are going to be the basic requirements to play the game, like operative systems, if you can do it on your phone, or old computers, like that kind of thing?
Yeah, good question. So I'm going to answer that now, and then I'm going to go into a little bit of something that not many people know about me. So firstly, one of the number one things that we want to do is provide inclusion. So we need to make the platform, the game, the ecosystem as available from a technical and system requirement perspective as possible. So the stuff that we have developed is something called low poly. We also put it on an engine called Unity. So the difference between Unity and Unreal Engine is Unreal Engine, you have to stream pixels, which costs a lot if you're talking about, current, monthly active users at scale. Unity is great if you do low poly, because the requirements are, they're all rendered on the customer end. If you do low poly, those system requirements are actually really quite low. So I was testing the game on a 7-year-old laptop, and I was still getting 30 frames per second, which is more than enough for the actual browser version of the game. It should be compliant with all of the smartphones that are available. So, as an example, when I went to Solomon Islands in 2018, there were basically, they don't have access to major infrastructure, but they have access to phones, and these are all just basic smartphones. And these people live on very little amount of money each day. But effectively, that's our target market, is these people who have these smartphones, and they have access to the internet, they have access to searching and education that they otherwise wouldn't have. Now they have an opportunity to do something a little bit more interesting with their time that can actually give them rewards in some kind of capacity. So that's a really interesting point. Getting back to the helping people side, I actually have a lot of different ideas about how we can help the world per se. So in 2018, I actually wrote a paper called Humanitarian Aid Token, which was based on a DAO concept that I'd come up with providing decentralized social capital investments and all these types of things where we could really roll out infrastructure and satisfy Maslow's law of needs, at least in the first rung, by providing shelter, food, comfort, water, people. So yeah, I've got some pretty big personal aims, but that you've got to crawl before you can walk, and you have to walk before you can fly. So there's going to be many steps to this, but I can tell you that from a project perspective, I'll be the last one getting paid, and that's a commitment that I make. But if I do end up being considerably wealthy through the process of our product and outcomes, you can rest assured I'm not going to go and buy fancy yachts and all that kind of stuff. I'm going to be working on different ways that we can actually help the world. I think that's really important because we have an opportunity. We have an opportunity to really change the world, change the landscape, change the face of it, and the borders that exist geographically and financially, the metaverse should destroy. And that gives us an opportunity to really, change lives on a macro scale. So we're building something here that has that potential opportunity. And if we can do it, it will mark something off my list, which will give me an enormous sense of value and achievement. Because what's the point of simply just being in self-service? If you're in service to others, then you can actually help make the world a better place through providing something that's really amazing and fantastic and fun, giving people better quality of life. That is something worth doing. Aside from the fact of this bringing together things that I really enjoy and love, what matters is the purpose. So yeah, we have that opportunity to really make a big impact for a lot of people across the world.
Yeah, thank you. That's what I see. It's very inspiring because we saw it happening with Axie, and I believe this has the potential to even go bigger, especially considering the ethics that I've seen in you and the rest of the team and the mods, like the community. It's I have very little experience, but I would dare to say it's above the standard for the industry. So I truly believe so. Thank you very much for answering my question.
Yeah, thanks for your question. I agree with him as an outsider looking in. Yeah, it looks like an awesome team behind an awesome project. Okay, we've got another question from Foot HQ. Don't know if you're just appearing offline, but we'll give it a go. Okay, I think he may have gone offline. All right, no bother. We've got a couple more text questions, which I'd like to relay to you. First of all, there's a few people that are curious about the beta, or the launch of the beta. They want to know a couple of things. How long you expect it to last? If there would be a cap on the amount of BAS you could earn throughout the beta? And would there be a kind of limit on daily earnable BAS, for instance?
Good questions. So the beta is limited by the amount of BAS that is available. So we've got 1.5 million BAS available, which is somewhere close to $2 million US in value for the beta. So basically, it's really challenging to estimate how long that's going to last, mainly because we don't yet have any metrics or figures that can adequately and accurately support how many players and champions there will be available. Obviously, we have 10,000 NFTs, but we can't naturally assume there's going to be 10,000 champions that are going to be playing, all day, every day. So it's a bit pie in the sky stuff until really we hit day one, and then we have some idea. If I was to give some form of forecast, I would say it will last about 3 weeks. It might be a lot sooner, depending on how things take shape. And the reason I say that is, if it gets out all of a sudden, I can earn $20 US a day playing bass, and this is how I did it. Just something as quick and simple as that could go viral across Korea, China, Philippines. You just never know. And this is really how Axie, started to really blow up. 60% of Axie's player base is in Philippines, and they're earning more than $10 a day, or at least on an average, which is their basic wage on a daily basis. So these sorts of things are you can have an idea, but you're not going to know until you know. It could blow up or it could not. If it doesn't blow up, I would say 3 weeks will be around about the time frame that we would have. I wouldn't foresee it going much longer than that. If it does, be surprised, but we'll see how it shapes up.
Oh, fantastic! So we'll be absolutely caning it out for 3 weeks straight then.
Yes, pretty much. Especially the people that have multiple gamesters. They should be quite happy. The main thing is that we get a bit of a diversification, of holdings and bass across a number of people, and hopefully there's a great opportunity for champions across all nations to get a piece of the pie.
All right. Okay, I think we're just about ready to wrap things up now. It's been a pretty decent AMA here. I think from the community, we've had a really amazing level of engagement. Thank you all for attending and for your fantastic questions. Also to Matt and Dan while he was here, incredible answers. Thank you so much for helping inform our community. And thank you for bringing your own community as well. It's been really great to meet you guys. Just wanted to mention briefly, we will still have the reviews open and available for you to do through till Wednesday, most likely. So this is guaranteed cash for you guys. Make sure you go and do the reviews. Head to the announcements channel on the sidebar there and check out the Google form there. The better your review, the more it could help guide the development of the project. So yeah, it's another piece of really valuable engagement which you could give to us. You will definitely be compensated for. Matt, I didn't know if you had any closing words here.
Yes, I do. I just want to thank everyone who joined the AMA and participated, all the wonderful questions, and thanks very much to Giga Chad for hosting this for us today. It's been really fantastic AMA. I really enjoyed all the questions and engagement from the community. And thanks very much everybody for your support. And we have some amazing plans in store, which you'll see getting rolled out over the next couple of months, along with the beta that's coming from the week of the 13th. So stay tuned for updates in all our social channels and community. And anyone that has any further questions or anything like that, please direct them to our various channels, and we'll be able to provide you some answers. We look forward to seeing you all in the beta, and thanks very much for everybody's support, and we'll see you again soon.
For sure. We've got some of the Block 8 Scissors mods in our own text channels. I'll be there and happy to answer any of the questions that you might have outstanding. Else, please do. I would encourage you to join the Block 8 Scissors Discord. There is a ton of material there to help you kind of work out how you feel about the project. There's a bunch of DYOR and loads of information. It's just generally an absolute mecca of information on the play-to-earn model in general. I would definitely encourage you to go have a look. Matt, thank you so much for your time. It's been really great to meet you, both you and Dan. Thanks for another amazing AMA.
Thanks very much for having me, and thanks everyone for tuning in.
Okay, take care, guys. Thanks for coming.
Cheers.